She was standing on her own front porch, 7 months pregnant, grocery bag in one hand, ultrasound photo in the other. She had just heard her baby's heartbeat for the first time that afternoon. She wanted to surprise her husband over dinner, but the key didn't fit. The locks had been changed, her suitcases were on the lawn, and from inside her own kitchen, she heard another woman's voice asking her husband about the dining set. He looked her in the eye and said she had 30 minutes to take what she could carry. 30 minutes. That's what 4 years of marriage was worth. That's what carrying his child was worth. 30 minutes and 3 suitcases packed so carelessly they included a dog leash. They didn't even have a dog. He threw her out for his secretary, called the baby a complication, filed papers claiming she abandoned him. But here's what Grant Calloway did not know. His wife's maiden name was Whitmore, and the company that owned his entire career, his office, his salary, every dollar he had been stealing for 2 years belonged to one man, a man named Russell Whitmore, her father, a secret trillionaire who had been watching from the shadows for 22 years. Grant married her for the money. He just didn't realize the money had already married him. This is the story of a woman who lost everything in one evening and discovered she had been powerful all along. Message and meaning: this story is not about revenge. It is not about money. It is about a woman who discovered that her worth was never defined by the man who threw her away or the father who watched from a distance. Her worth was built in silence, in struggle, in the kitchen at 3 in the morning, folding baby clothes because it was the only thing she could control. If you have ever been made to feel invisible, if you have ever been underestimated, if you have ever been someone's plan instead of someone's love, this story is your reminder. You were never the backup plan. You were the whole story. They just didn't know how to read it. You have 30 minutes to get what you can carry. After that, I'm calling the police. Grant Calloway stood in the doorway of the house they had shared for 4 years. His jaw was set. His eyes were flat. He wore a charcoal suit Ellery had never seen before. Italian cut, slim lapels. The kind of suit a man buys when he is trying to become someone new. Ellery stood on the porch with her car keys in one hand and an ultrasound photo in the other. She was 7 months pregnant. Her back ached from the drive home. Her feet were swollen. She had spent the last hour at Dr. Marsh's office listening to the steady whoosh of her baby's heartbeat. She had asked the receptionist to print an extra copy of the ultrasound so she could surprise Grant over dinner. She tried the key again. It did not fit. Grant, what are you talking about? I changed the locks this morning. He said it the way someone says they changed the oil. Routine, necessary. My attorney will send paperwork to whatever address you end up at. The porch light buzzed. A moth bounced against the glass. The evening air smelled like fresh-cut grass. Somewhere on the street, a neighbor's sprinkler clicked in steady rhythm. Ellery looked past Grant into the foyer. 3 suitcases sat near the door. Hers, packed carelessly. A sleeve of her favorite cardigan hung out of the zipper like a trapped hand waving for help. I don't understand, she said. Her voice was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that comes from the brain refusing to process what the eyes are seeing. Then she heard it. A woman's voice from the kitchen. Light, casual, familiar. Grant, the movers need to know about the dining set. Are we keeping the chairs or replacing them? Ellery knew that voice. She had heard it 100 times on speakerphone when Grant worked from home. She had heard it at the company Christmas party, at the summer barbecue, at the fundraiser, where Grant introduced her as his indispensable right hand. Dominique Pratt, his secretary. The world tilted. Ellery grabbed the porch railing. Her belly tightened. A sharp, squeezing cramp rolled across her abdomen. Braxton Hicks. Stress response. Her body understood what her mind was still refusing. How long? Ellery whispered. Grant crossed his arms. That's not relevant. How long, Grant? I've been unhappy for years, Ellery. The pregnancy was a mistake. We both know that. Dominique and I have an understanding. She gets me in ways you never could. The ultrasound photo was still in her hand. She had planned to tape it to the refrigerator. She had planned to make his favorite pasta. She had planned to tell him the baby was measuring perfectly, right on track, healthy and strong. She looked down at the grainy image. A tiny profile, a nose, a hand curled near a chin. Her phone buzzed, a text from Bev Calloway, Grant's mother. It's for the best, dear. You were never quite right for this family. Ellery read it twice. The words blurred. She blinked, read it again. Across the street, Pastor Dennis Oakley had stopped walking his dog. He stood on the sidewalk, watching. His German shepherd sat obediently at his heel. The pastor took one step toward the house. Ellery got in her car before he could reach her. She drove 3 blocks, pulled over on a side street lined with oak trees. The engine idled. The air conditioning hummed. Her hand sat on her belly. She had nowhere to go. She checked her phone. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock. Waiting for a message that said, "Come home." Waiting for the words, "I am sorry." Waiting for the call that would tell her this was a cruel joke, a misunderstanding, a nightmare she would wake from any moment. The phone stayed dark. She sat there for 11 minutes. She counted each one on the dashboard clock. Then she called Sloane Mercer, her best friend since college. Her voice came out broken and strange. "Sloane? Ellery? What's wrong?" He threw me out. Silence. "I'm coming," Sloane said. "Don't move." Ellery waited. The streetlight above her flickered. The oak trees rustled. A cat crossed the road in no particular hurry. She opened one of the suitcases in the back seat. Grant had packed it himself. She found her winter coat crammed next to a summer dress. A single running shoe with no match. 3 books she had already donated to the library last month. And a dog leash. They did not have a dog. He had packed so carelessly, so indifferently. He had grabbed things from the closet without looking. He had not checked drawers or shelves. He had simply filled 3 bags with whatever his hands touched and set them by the door. The way you pack when you are throwing something away. She held the dog leash. She started laughing. Then the laughing became something else. The ultrasound photo lay on the passenger seat. A perfect profile. A tiny hand. She never got to show him. Sloane's headlights appeared in the rearview mirror 22 minutes later. Sloane parked behind her, got out, opened Ellery's door, looked at her face. "Tell me everything," Sloane said, "and then I'm going to tell you something about Grant Calloway that you should have known a long time ago." Sloane's apartment smelled like eucalyptus and old books. She was a divorce attorney, a good one. Her bookshelves were lined with family law textbooks and framed photos of friends she had helped put their lives back together. She made Ellery chamomile tea, set it on the coffee table, sat across from her on the floor because Ellery had taken the only comfortable chair and Sloane did not want to make her move. "Drink that," Sloane said. "All of it." Ellery wrapped her hands around the mug. The warmth was the first thing that had felt real in 2 hours. "How long have you known?" Ellery asked. Sloane took a breath. 6 months. 6 months. I saw them at Luca's, that Italian place on 7th. It was a Tuesday. I was meeting a client. Grant and Dominique were at a corner table. She had her hand on his knee. He was feeding her dessert off his fork. Ellery closed her eyes. Tuesday nights. Grant always worked late on Tuesdays. Board meetings, he said, strategy sessions, important dinners with investors. She had believed every single one. Why didn't you tell me? You were 5 months pregnant, Ellery. Your blood pressure was already high. Dr. Marsh had you on modified rest. I was terrified that the shock would hurt the baby. So I did what I do. Sloane paused. I started building a case. She pulled a folder from her desk, manila, thick, tabbed with colored dividers. Inside, credit card statements she had obtained through public records requests, hotel receipts from the Belmore downtown, a reservation at a bed and breakfast in wine country for 2 guests, and screenshots from a social media account under a fake name. Dominique's fake name. The photos on the account were taken in Ellery's house, in Ellery's kitchen. One showed Dominique wearing Ellery's robe, the white waffle one with the embroidered initials. A gift from Ellery's mother before she passed. The photos were dated. The earliest was 14 months ago. 14 months. Before the pregnancy, before the baby shower that Bev reluctantly hosted, before the nursery they painted together on a Sunday afternoon. Robin's egg, blue. Grant had smiled that day. He had kissed the top of Ellery's head and said, "This is going to be the best room in the house." 14 months ago, he was already sleeping with Dominique. He knew about the affair when Ellery told him she was pregnant. He stood in their bathroom. She held the test with shaking hands. He cried. He said, "Oh my God." He said, "We are going to be a family." He poured sparkling cider because she could not have champagne, all while sleeping with his secretary. "God," Ellery whispered. Not a prayer, an exhalation. I knew, somewhere underneath everything, I knew, every time he turned his phone face down on the table, every time he came home, smelling like different soap, every single time he said, "Don't wait up." I knew. She pressed her palms against her eyes. "I'm not crazy," she said. Her voice was low and hard. "I was never crazy. Every instinct I doubted. Every gut feeling I talked myself out of. It was all right." Sloane let her sit with that. Did not rush in with comfort or strategy. Just let the truth settle. After a while, Ellery asked the question that had been forming since the porch. Why me? Why did he marry me? I'm a freelance graphic designer. I've never had money. My father left when I was 8. My mother raised me alone on a nurse's salary. There's nothing to gain from being with me. Sloane sat forward. Her eyes narrowed the way they did in depositions when she was circling something. "That's the part I haven't figured out yet," she said. "Grant pursued you, Ellery. Hard. Do you remember? The charity gala. He tracked you down. He asked about your work. He asked about your family. He asked about your father." Ellery remembered. The gala had been 3 years ago. She was designing invitations for the event. Grant approached her near the silent auction table. He was charming, specific. He asked questions nobody else had ever bothered with. "Where did you grow up? What does your father do? Do you have siblings? Are you close with your family?" At the time, she had thought he was genuinely interested. Now those questions felt like an interview, a background check dressed up as flirtation. "He targeted you," Sloane said. "I'm sure of it. I just don't know why yet." That night, Ellery could not sleep. She lay on Sloane's guest bed. The sheets smelled like lavender detergent. The baby kicked against her ribs. She picked up her phone, scrolled through old photos, their wedding day, the honeymoon in Savannah, the pregnancy announcement, Grant's hand on her belly, his grin. She zoomed in on his eyes, searched for the lie. Was it there in the wedding photos? Was it there the day they moved in? Was it there the morning he brought her breakfast in bed and said, "You are my whole world"? She deleted 3 photos, then retrieved them from the deleted folder. deleted them again, retrieved them again, put the phone face down on the nightstand, picked it up, put it down. At midnight, Sloane's phone buzzed in the next room. Ellery heard her get up, heard her pace, heard her say a word that divorce attorneys probably should not say out loud. Sloane appeared in the doorway. Her face was tight. Grant just filed an emergency motion. He's claiming the house, but still Bavis, but both cars, all joint accounts. She paused. And Ellery, he's listed grounds for divorce as abandonment. He's saying you left him. The ceiling fan turned above the bed, around and around. Ellery watched it. A moth had gotten inside and was circling the light. He threw me out, Ellery said. He changed the locks while I was at my doctor's appointment. I know, and we're going to prove it. But right now, on paper, Grant Calloway is telling the court that his pregnant wife walked out on him, and his mother is telling everyone else the same thing. The fan clicked. The moth circled. The baby kicked. Ellery put her hand on her stomach and felt the small, sharp jab of a heel or an elbow. A tiny person, fully formed, waiting to arrive in a world that had just turned upside down. Then we need to tell the truth louder than they can lie, Ellery said. The next morning, Sloane worked the phones, filed counter motions, requested an emergency hearing, drafted affidavits. She moved through the legal system like a woman who had done this 100 times, because she had. But she was worried. She told Ellery over coffee at the kitchen table. Grant works for Whitmore Holdings, massive company, deep pockets. Their legal team has 40 attorneys. I'm one person with a paralegal who works Tuesdays and Thursdays. Ellery wrapped her hands around her mug. Whitmore Holdings? That's the parent company. They acquired Calloway Partners about 8 months ago. Grant's been walking around the office like he owns the place. But technically, he's an employee now. The holding company calls the shots. Whitmore. The name landed differently than it should have. It sat in her chest, familiar, uncomfortable, like a word on the tip of her tongue. Whitmore was her maiden name. Before she took Calloway. Before she became Grant's wife, and Grant's project, and Grant's carefully constructed accessory. Ellery Whitmore. She said nothing to Sloane, not yet. It was probably a coincidence. Whitmore was not an uncommon name. There were Whitmores everywhere, in phone books, and on mailboxes, and carved into headstones in every cemetery from Maine to California. But that night, after Sloane fell asleep, Ellery sat on the bathroom floor with her laptop balanced on her knees and typed 2 words into the search bar. Whitmore Holdings. The company had no public face, no smiling founder on the About page, no headshot in the annual report, just layers of corporate structure. Shell companies nested inside shell companies. Subsidiaries with names like Whitmore Capital Group and Whitmore Ventures International and WH Asset Management. The portfolio was staggering. Real estate across 12 states, technology firms, energy companies, a shipping logistics operation, financial services. Estimated valuation of the combined holdings was difficult to pin down, but one financial analysis site used a word Ellery had never associated with an actual person. Trillionaire. She scrolled deeper. Archived articles from 20 years ago. Business registrations in Delaware. A single mention in a trade publication from 2004. R. Whitmore, founder of the eponymous holding company, continues to expand quietly into energy and technology sectors. R. Whitmore. No first name, no photo. Her father's name was Russell. Russell James Whitmore. Her hands trembled. The laptop screen blurred. She wiped her eyes and looked again. She found the Delaware registration. Russell J. Whitmore. Same middle initial as on her birth certificate. Same middle initial her mother had written on school forms in her careful handwriting. No, Ellery whispered to the bathroom tiles. That's impossible. My father drove a pickup truck. He wore flannel shirts that smelled like engine grease. He played guitar on the back porch. He disappeared when I was 8 and never came back. He can't be a trillionaire. He can't be anything, but she kept searching. And she found one more thing. Whitmore Holdings had acquired Callaway Partners 8 months ago. Through 3 layers of shell corporations, the acquisition was finalized on March 15th. Ellery checked her calendar. March 15th was the day she told Grant she was pregnant. Her father, if this was her father, had bought the company her husband worked for. Around the same time she conceived her child. The coincidence was too precise, too surgical. It felt designed. She sat on the bathroom floor until 3 in the morning. The tiles were cold. The baby was quiet. The apartment was dark, except for the laptop screen glowing against her face. She did not sleep. The next morning, a knock came at Sloane's door. Not Sloane's usual clients, who texted first. Not the mail carrier, who came at noon. A firm, polite knock. Twice. Then silence. Sloane checked the peephole and looked back at Ellery with confusion. It's a man, well-dressed, says he's looking for you. Ellery approached the door, opened it. He was the mid-30s, tall, clean-shaven. He wore a simple navy blazer over a white shirt. His eyes were brown, kind, and familiar in a way Ellery could not immediately name. Ellery? He said it gently, like a question he already knew the answer to. I'm Teddy, Theodore Whitmore. I'm your brother. Ellery gripped the doorframe. I don't have a brother. You do. Dad remarried after he left. Briefly. I was born a year later. I've known about you my entire life. He paused. I've been watching out for you, from a distance, at Dad's request. Ellery's knees softened. Sloane was behind her in an instant, one hand on her back. Maybe we should sit down, Sloane said. They sat in the living room, Teddy on the edge of the armchair, Ellery on the couch, with a pillow clutched against her chest like armor. Teddy explained it simply. Russell Whitmore left when Ellery was 8. Not because he wanted to, because her mother, Patricia, demanded it. Patricia had discovered the scope of Russell's growing wealth. She feared what it would do to Ellery, the attention, the danger, the way money reshapes a child's understanding of the world. Patricia made Russell promise to stay away, to let Ellery grow up normal, to let her struggle and earn and learn the way Patricia believed children should. And Russell, because he loved Patricia and because he believed she was right, agreed. But he never stopped watching. Dad set up a trust in your name before you were born, Teddy said. He's funded it every year since. He's attended every major event of your life. Graduation, your first gallery showing. He was in the back of the church at Mom's funeral. Ellery's breath caught. He was at my mother's funeral? Back pew. Left before the reception. He said he didn't have the right to stay. The room was quiet. The clock on Sloane's wall ticked. Outside, a garbage truck grumbled down the street. He watched me eat rice and beans for Christmas dinner, Ellery said. Her voice was flat, controlled. He watched me work 2 jobs in college. He watched my mother die after 30 years of double shifts. And he had $1 trillion. Teddy did not flinch. Yes. Why are you here now? Because your husband threw you out, and Dad is done watching. Teddy's phone rang. He glanced at it, silenced it, then looked at Ellery with an expression she could not quite read, something between urgency and sorrow. Dad wants to meet you, today, but Ellery, there's something else you need to know first. He set his phone on the table. Grant knows about Dad. He's always known. That's why he married you. The clock ticked. The garbage truck moved on. The baby kicked twice. Ellery sat on Sloane's balcony, alone that evening. The city stretched below, lights coming on in windows, people making dinner, living their ordinary lives. She held her belly. The baby shifted, a slow roll under her ribs. She was not processing the trillionaire revelation. Not yet. That was too large, too abstract, too impossible. She was processing the smaller, sharper truth. Her father had been there, not there, watching, not touching, present in his absence and absent in his presence for 22 years. She thought about her mother, Patricia Whitmore, who became Patricia James after the divorce, who worked 12-hour shifts at Mercy General, who came home smelling like antiseptic and hospital coffee, who helped Ellery with algebra at the kitchen table and fell asleep sitting up because she was too tired to walk to bed. Her mother had chosen that life, chosen struggle over comfort, chosen independence over dependence. And Russell had let her. Ellery did not know if that was love or cowardice. Maybe it was both. She did not cry. She was too confused to cry. She just sat, and the baby kicked again. And the city lights came on one by one, like slow, blooming stars. The meeting with Teddy continued the next morning. Sloane made them all sit at the kitchen table like civilized people. She put out orange juice and toast. Nobody ate. Teddy opened his laptop. He had files, organized, dated, color-coded. He was methodical in a way that reminded Ellery of no one in her family. Then she realized he had probably learned that from Russell. "Grant didn't meet you by accident," Teddy began. 3 years ago, he approached Dad's company for investment capital. Callaway Partners was struggling. Grant needed cash. He submitted a proposal to Whitmore Holdings. It was rejected. "Why?" Sloane asked. "Because the financials were inflated. Grant was already cooking the books before the acquisition. Dad's team flagged it immediately." Teddy pulled up a timeline on his screen. 2 months after the rejection, Grant hired a private investigator. The investigator's report is in this folder. He turned the laptop toward Ellery. "The subject of the investigation was you." Ellery read the first page. Her name, her address, her workplace, her mother's name and place of employment, her father's name, and a highlighted section near the bottom. Estranged daughter of Russell J. Whitmore, founder and sole owner of Whitmore Holdings. Subject appears unaware of father's identity or net worth. "He knew everything before your first date," Teddy said. "The charity gala where you met. He got himself on the guest list. He found out you were designing the invitations, and he positioned himself near the auction table because that's where the event coordinator told him you would be." Ellery remembered that night, the way Grant had appeared beside her as if drawn by gravity, the way he had asked about her family with such warmth, such interest, the way he had leaned in when she talked about her father leaving, the sympathy in his eyes, the hand on her shoulder. "He married me for access," she said, not a question. He believed that marrying Russell Whitmore's daughter would eventually open doors. He expected Dad to come back into your life at some point. He was positioning himself to be the son-in-law of a trillionaire. Sloane leaned forward, but Russell didn't come back? No. So Grant pivoted. When the marriage didn't produce the corporate access he wanted, he started embezzling from Callaway Partners instead. Small amounts at first, redirected contracts, phantom consulting fees. By the time Dad acquired the company, Grant had taken over $600,000. "Wait," Ellery held up her hand. "Russell acquired the company?" Teddy nodded. 8 months ago, through 3 shell corporations. Every share, every asset, every contract. Grant Callaway works for Dad. He has no idea. The kitchen was quiet. The refrigerator hummed. Sunlight moved across the table. "He married me for money I didn't even have," Ellery said. Her voice was steady now. The shock had passed through her body and left something harder in its place. "He gambled on my father's love, and my father was playing chess while Grant was playing checkers. She turned to Teddy. The anger came then, not at Grant, not yet, at the man who had let her struggle. Your father, our father. Let me eat ramen 4 nights a week in college. Let me sleep in my car during winter break because I couldn't afford to heat my apartment and fly home. Let my mother work herself to death. He had $1 trillion, and I couldn't afford her funeral. Teddy did not defend Russell. He sat with the accusation and absorbed it. You're right, he said. He was wrong. He knows he was wrong. He spent 22 years being wrong. But Ellery, right now, Grant is trying to take everything from you, including your daughter. And Dad is the one person who can stop it. Sloan pulled the legal files into the center of the table. Here's the situation. Grant has frozen your joint accounts, filed abandonment claims. His company's legal team, which is ironically funded by Whitmore Holdings, is burying me in motions. He's also pushing a narrative that you're unstable, hormonal, unfit for custody. His lawyers are being paid with my father's money, Ellery said, to use against me. That's the situation. Ellery looked at Teddy, then at Sloan, then at the ultrasound photo pinned to Sloan's refrigerator with a magnet shaped like a strawberry. I deserved better, she said quietly. Better than being someone's business plan. Better than being a line item in a con man's spreadsheet. I deserve to be loved for who I am, not for who my father might be. She stood, walked to the window. The street below was ordinary. Cars, people, a woman pushing a stroller, a man carrying grocery bags. Set up the meeting, she said. I'll see Russell, but on my terms, not his. That afternoon, Ellery went to the grocery store. She needed prenatal vitamins. She walked the aisles slowly, one hand on the cart, one hand on her belly. She found the vitamin aisle, stood there, stared at the shelves. She could not remember which brand she used. She had taken the same vitamins every morning for 7 months. She could picture the bottle on the bathroom counter. The one in the house she could no longer enter, but the name was gone. The color of the label was gone. Everything was gone, except the row of identical bottles staring back at her. Tears fell into the shopping cart, silently. She did not wipe them. A woman in scrubs paused beside her. Are you okay, honey? Yes, Ellery said. I'm fine. Thank you. She was not fine. She bought the wrong brand. Did not notice until she was back at Sloan's apartment, holding the unfamiliar bottle, reading a label that belonged to someone else's routine. She took them anyway. The baby did not care about brand names. That evening, Grant called. His name on the screen made her stomach drop. Sign the settlement, Ellery. His voice was boardroom smooth, practiced. Take the $30,000 and walk away. You have no assets, no income, no family. Don't make this ugly. She almost agreed. The exhaustion was unbearable. 7 months pregnant, living on her best friend's couch, fighting a man with unlimited resources and no conscience. Then Teddy texted her a photo. It was Russell, sitting in what appeared to be a modest office. Wood desk, simple chair. On the wall behind him hung a framed photo. Ellery squinted, zoomed in. It was her, at her college graduation, cap and gown, smiling at someone in the audience she could not see. He had been there. In the back row, she had looked out at the crowd that day and felt the absence of family like a cold draft. Her mother was working. She had no one in the seats. But he was there. She just never knew. She did not respond to Grant. Pastor Dennis Oakley called the next morning. His voice was deep and deliberate, a voice accustomed to speaking to people in crisis. Mrs. Calloway, I was there Tuesday evening. I saw everything. I saw your husband put suitcases on the porch. I saw you arrive home from what appeared to be a medical appointment. I saw you leave in distress. I have lived on Maple Drive for 31 years. and I have never seen anything like what I witnessed. Ellery sat on the edge of Sloane's guest bed. Why are you calling me, Pastor? Because Bev Calloway is telling a very different story, and I don't abide liars. He had already spoken to 3 neighbors. The Andersons at number 44, who saw Grant carrying boxes out before Ellery arrived. The retired teacher at number 48, who heard Grant shouting through the open window. And the mail carrier, who noticed the locks being changed that afternoon. I'll put it in writing, Pastor Oakley said. I'll say it under oath, and I'll say it on the evening news, if it comes to that. It was the first time in days that Ellery felt something other than dread. A flicker. Brief, but real. The flicker did not last. Bev Calloway's campaign was working. The group text she had sent to family, friends, and church members had spread like ink in water. Ellery's freelance clients began canceling. Her biggest account, a small publishing house, emailed with careful corporate phrasing, "We think it's best to pause our collaboration while you focus on your health." The subtext was unmistakable. The crazy pregnant wife narrative was winning. Sloane filed a cease and desist against Bev for defamation. Bev's lawyer responded within hours. Expressing concern for a family member's emotional well-being is protected speech under the First Amendment. Sloane threw the response across her desk. Protected speech. She's destroying your reputation with a targeted smear campaign and calling it concern. Then Grant escalated again. He filed a motion to establish paternity. Not because he wanted custody, not because he cared about being a father, because his attorney had advised him that questioning paternity would create legal leverage. Delay proceedings. Force Ellery into additional hearings and medical examinations. The filing included a single line that made Ellery's blood turn to ice. Respondent requests genetic testing to confirm biological parentage of the unborn child, as the marriage was marked by extended periods of emotional distance and unexplained absences by the mother. He was implying the baby might not be his. Ellery read the filing in Sloane's kitchen. She read it twice, 3 times. She set the paper on the counter and pressed her palms flat against the granite. Something shifted inside her, not the baby. Something else, something that had been curled up and quiet and patient for 7 months, for 4 years, for her entire marriage. Anger, not the hot, explosive kind. The cold kind. The kind that clarifies. The kind that strips away confusion and reveals the architecture of what has been done to you. He threw me out carrying his child, Ellery said. Her voice was low, steady. And now he's questioning whether the baby is his, not because he believes it, because hurting me is a strategy, because I am not a person to him, I am a problem to be managed. She picked up her phone and called Teddy. Set up the meeting. Today. The restaurant had no prices on the menu. Ellery noticed this as she was led to a private room in the back. The tablecloth was white linen, the glasses were crystal. The air smelled like rosemary bread and expensive butter. Russell was already there. He stood when she entered. He was 62, silver hair, a face that had been weathered by something other than sun. He wore a simple button-down shirt, no tie, no watch, no cufflinks. He looked like someone's quiet, unremarkable grandfather. His eyes filled when he saw her. He did not approach. He did not reach for her. He waited. Ellery sat down across from him. The chair was soft leather. The napkin was cloth. A waiter appeared and disappeared silently, leaving water with lemon that no one had requested. A long silence. You missed my entire life, Ellery said. I know. Mom died thinking you didn't care. Russell's jaw tightened. Your mother knew I cared. That's why she made me stay away. She wanted you to have a normal life, away from... He looked around the room, the crystal, the linen, the invisible waiters. All of this. A normal life, Ellery repeated. Is that what you call growing up poor? Working double shifts? Eating rice and beans on Christmas? Your mother was the strongest person I ever knew. She believed struggle built character. She wasn't wrong. She worked herself to death, Russell. Literally. Died at 58 from heart failure because that she never took a day off. You could have helped. You could have made her life easier. She wouldn't let me. I tried. I sent money. She sent it back. Every time. She said if I wanted to help, I could stay away and let her raise you her way. They sat in silence. The food arrived. Neither touched it. Russell told her small things, that he had the crayon drawings she made in second grade. Her mother sent them in a manila envelope with no return address. That he was in the hospital parking lot when she had her appendix removed at 12, that he sat in the back row of her college graduation in a borrowed jacket so he would not stand out, that he read every article she wrote for the college newspaper. Ellery did not forgive him. She could not. Not today. Maybe not ever, but she listened, and listening was enough for now. The baby kicked, hard. Ellery's hand went to her belly. Russell saw the movement. His expression broke for just a moment. His jaw worked. He looked down at his untouched plate. I won't let him take anything else from you, Russell said. Not Grant, not his mother, not anyone. I have spent 22 years failing you in the way your mother asked me to. I am done failing you. As they left the restaurant, a woman met them in the lobby. Mid-40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She carried a leather folder embossed with a silver W. Ellery, this is Margot Hale, Russell said. She runs the operational side of Whitmore Holdings. Margot extended her hand. Her grip was firm. Her smile was brief and professional. These are the complete financial records of Callaway Partners for the past 2 fiscal years, she said, handing Ellery the folder. Every transaction, every disbursement, every line item. She paused. Let the folders wait, settle in Ellery's hands. Your husband has been embezzling from his own company for 26 months. Redirected contracts, phantom consultants, personal expenses charged to operating accounts. The total is just over $600,000. Margot looked at Russell, then back at Ellery. The company he's been stealing from? Your father owns it. Sloane spread the documents across her dining table like a surgeon laying out instruments. Financial statements, bank records, wire transfers, internal memos. A paper trail so clear it might as well have been written in neon. This isn't just divorce ammunition, Sloane said. She looked up at Ellery with the expression she wore when a case crossed the line from civil to criminal. This is embezzlement, fraud, and some of these wire transfers cross state lines, which makes it federal. Ellery stood at the window. The late afternoon sun made long shadows on the carpet. Her reflection was barely visible in the glass. A woman, 7 months pregnant, standing in someone else's apartment, looking at the ruins of her marriage on a dining table. What do we do with it? She asked. Sloane outlined 2 paths. The first was to use the evidence as leverage in the divorce. Force Grant into a settlement on Ellery's terms. Quick, clean, devastating. The second was to let it play through proper channels. Corporate audit, criminal investigation. A process that would be slower but more thorough, more public, more permanent. I want both, Ellery said. Sloane nodded. Then we file a new divorce motion with the financial evidence attached, and Margot initiates a formal corporate audit through Whitmore Holdings. Grant gets hit from 2 directions at once. While Sloane prepared filings, Margot was already in motion. Grant was called into a mandatory meeting at Whitmore Holdings' regional office on a Thursday morning. The email said quarterly review. Routine. He thought nothing of it. He showed up in a new suit, navy blue, Italian leather shoes. Dominique's lipstick was on his collar, a faint pink crescent that he no longer bothered to hide. He walked into the conference room with the stride of a man who believed he was untouchable. Margot was seated at the head of the table. Beside her sat a man Grant did not recognize. Wire-rimmed glasses, gray suit, the kind of face that spent most of its time looking at spreadsheets. "Grant, thank you for coming," Margot said. "This is Howard Chen. He's a forensic accountant retained by the holding company." Grant's smile flickered. "Forensic. That seems a bit dramatic for a quarterly review." Howard opened a binder. Thick, tabbed. He began speaking in a monotone that was more devastating than any shout. Transaction by transaction, date by date, dollar by dollar. The phantom consulting firm that shared a mailing address with Dominique's apartment. The personal travel charged to operating expenses. The country club membership for Bev. The renovations to a lake house Grant purchased under an associate's name. $614,000. Over 26 months. Grant's face went through a series of changes. Confusion, irritation, alarm, and then something Ellery would later wish she could have seen. Pure, bone-deep fear. "This is a misunderstanding," he said. His voice had lost its boardroom polish. "I can explain every single transaction. There are legitimate business reasons for all of this." Margot said nothing. She slid one more document across the table. An organizational chart. The true ownership structure of Callaway Partners. Shell companies peeled away like layers of an onion. At the top, in clean black type, Russell J. Whitmore, sole owner. Grant stared. "Whitmore," he said, "as in—" Margot let the silence answer. The color drained from Grant's face like water from a broken glass. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. He looked at Margot, at Howard, at the organizational chart, at the name at the top, the name of the woman he had thrown out of his house 2 weeks ago. "You're suspended effective immediately," Margot said. "Pending a full investigation, your corporate credit card has been deactivated. Your office access has been revoked. Security will escort you to collect personal items." Grant sat in his car in the parking garage for 45 minutes. The engine was off. The garage was dim and smelled like concrete and motor oil. He called Ellery. She did not answer. He called Bev. "Her father is Whitmore," he said. His voice was hollow. "Russell Whitmore, the holding company, the one that bought us. He's Ellery's father." Bev was silent for a long time. "What do you mean he's her father? She told us her father abandoned her." "He did, but he came back. And he owns everything, everything, Mom. The company, the building, my office, my salary, everything." Bev's silence stretched. When she spoke, her voice had the thin, careful quality of a woman recalculating her position. "How much trouble are you in?" "I don't know yet." "Then stop calling me and call your lawyer." She hung it up. Across town, Ellery sat in Sloane's guest bedroom. It was 3 in the morning. The apartment was dark, except for the lamp beside the bed. She was folding baby clothes, tiny onesies, impossibly small socks, a knitted hat with bare ears that Sloane had bought at a craft fair. She folded each piece precisely, smoothed the fabric, aligned the edges, refolded the ones already done. Her hands needed something to do, something small and manageable and within her control. She was not thinking about Grant, or his face in the conference room, or the $600,000, or the organizational chart. She was thinking about whether she would be enough, whether she could do this alone, whether her daughter would grow up wondering where her father was, the way Ellery had grown up wondering about Russell. The hat with the bear ears was soft against her fingers. She folded it 3 times before getting it right. Then Dominique called. Ellery almost did not answer, but something made her swipe the screen. Maybe curiosity, maybe exhaustion, maybe the fact that it was 3 in the morning and normal rules did not apply. "I know you don't want to hear from me," Dominique said. Her voice was different than Ellery expected. Not aggressive, not defensive, small. "But I need you to know something. He told me you were already divorced. He told me you had left. He told me there was no baby." Ellery said nothing. "I believed him," Dominique continued. "I know that sounds pathetic. I know you probably hate me, but he lied to me the same way he lied to you. Different lies, same man." Ellery hung up. She did not owe Dominique comfort or absolution or anything at all. But something in the woman's voice, the shock, the dawning realization of having been used, planted a seed, a small one, buried deep. She set down the bear hat, turned off the lamp, lay in the dark, and listened to the apartment breathe. The baby kicked once, softly, like a whisper. The stress found her body before her mind could build a wall around it. Dr. Colleen Marsh called Ellery personally at 7:45 in the morning. Not the office, not the nurse, Dr. Marsh herself. "Your lab work came back. Your blood pressure numbers from the home monitor are trending in a direction I don't like. I want you to come in today, not tomorrow, today." At the hospital, the numbers confirmed what Ellery's body already knew. Blood pressure 152/98. Protein in her urine. Swelling in her hands and feet that was not just pregnancy anymore, preeclampsia risk. At 32 weeks, Dr. Marsh admitted her. Monitors were attached. An IV placed. The room was white and beige and smelled like antiseptic and anxiety. "We need to get this under control," Dr. Marsh said. Her voice was gentle, but her eyes were serious. "The baby is healthy right now. Your placenta is functioning well. But if your blood pressure keeps climbing, we may need to have a conversation about early delivery." Ellery lay on the hospital bed. The monitors beeped in steady rhythm. Her baby's heartbeat filled the room. A fast, strong gallop. 142 beats per minute. The most reliable thing in her world. Her phone sat on the bedside table. 47 text messages from Sloan, from Teddy, from her freelance clients, some canceling and some sending awkward well wishes. From Bev Calloway, whose message she read because she could not help herself. "I hope you're happy. You've ruined my son's life." No message from Grant, not one. The man who had thrown her out while she carried his child. The man who was questioning that child's paternity in court documents. The man who had orchestrated their entire relationship as a financial strategy. He could not be bothered to send a single text to ask if she was alive. At 2 in the morning, a nurse came to check vitals. Young, tired, kind eyes above a blue surgical mask. "How are you feeling?" "Scared," Ellery admitted. The first time she had said it out loud. The nurse adjusted the blood pressure cuff, read the numbers, made a note. "Your baby is strong," she said, smiled. "Just like the woman carrying her." Her. The nurse said her. Ellery blinked. "Her?" "Oh." The nurse's eyes widened. "I'm sorry." "Did you not know?" "I saw it on the chart. It's a girl." The room was quiet. The monitors beeped. The fluorescent light hummed. A girl. She was having a daughter. Ellery put both hands on her belly, felt the baby move, a slow roll, a stretch, a tiny person turning in her sleep. "I will not let my daughter's first story be that her mother was thrown away," Ellery whispered. Not to the nurse, not to anyone, to herself, to the small, sleeping girl inside her. Teddy arrived in the morning. He sat in the chair beside the bed and said nothing inspirational. Did not offer platitudes. Did not tell her it would be okay. He held her hand while the monitors beeped and the IV dripped, and the hospital moved around them like a machine that never stopped. He brought a book of crossword puzzles. They worked 3 of them in silence, 7 across, 5 letters, meaning to persist. Ellery wrote, "Endure." The court hearing was in 2 days. Sloan called from her car between filings. Grant's legal team is arguing that Russell's corporate actions constitute harassment and intimidation. They're framing Ellery as a puppet of a vindictive billionaire who's using his resources to destroy an ordinary husband. The judge assigned to the hearing had been flagged by Sloan's research, a former golfing partner of Bev Calloway's late husband. Not an automatic disqualification, but not ideal. Sloan fought. She presented evidence, witnesses, financials. But the judge was cautious. He ordered a temporary freeze on any corporate action against Grant pending a full review. Russell's chess move was blocked. Temporarily, but blocked. Ellery received the news in her hospital bed. The blood pressure cuff tightened on her arm. The number climbed, 158 over 100. Russell called. His voice was calm, controlled, the voice of a man who had navigated 1,000 corporate battles and lost none of them. This is one battle, not the war. He's panicking. Panicking people make mistakes. We wait. I'm in a hospital bed, Russell. My blood pressure is through the roof. My daughter might come early. I don't have time to wait. Silence on the line. Then quietly, I know. I'm sorry. She filled out a hospital form that evening. Emergency contact. Her pen moved automatically to write Grant Calloway. Muscle memory. 4 years of training. She stopped, looked at the name half-formed on the line, crossed it out so hard the pen tore through the paper. She wrote, Sloan Mercer, stared at the crossed-out name for a long time. The ghost of a husband she never really had. Pastor Oakley visited the next afternoon. He brought daisies from his garden and a notarized statement in a manila envelope. I've written down exactly what I saw that evening, he said. He placed the envelope on her bedside table. Date, time, weather conditions, the suitcases on the porch. Your husband standing in the doorway. You arriving from a medical appointment. 3 neighbors have agreed to corroborate. Mrs. Anderson, Mr. Petrie, the mail carrier, Dwayne. He sat down. His German shepherd, he explained apologetically, was waiting in the car. That woman Bev is telling people you left, he said. I watched your husband put your belongings on the lawn while you were coming home from a doctor's appointment. 31 years I've lived on that street. I know what I saw, and I'll say it under oath, in a deposition, or on the 6 o'clock news, whatever you need. After he left, Ellery's phone chimed. An email from an address she did not recognize. It was Dominique, a long email, detailed, structured, written by someone who had spent days thinking about what to say. She had been Grant's secretary for 2 years. He pursued her, took her to lunch, called her brilliant, told her his marriage was over, his wife was unstable, they were already separated. He said there was no baby. 3 weeks ago, Dominique found a folder in Grant's desk, labeled Whitmore Project. Inside, printed research on Ellery's family. Russell Whitmore's corporate structure diagrammed on graph paper. A timeline. Handwritten notes in Grant's precise script. Phase 1, courtship. Phase 2, marriage. Phase 3, leverage. Whitmore connection. Phase 4, extract value. Dominique had not understood it at the time. She did now. I was part of his plan, she wrote. Not a person, a prop. The attractive secretary on his arm for the executive life he was building on stolen money and a manipulated marriage. I'm willing to testify to everything I've told you. And there's one more thing. At the bottom of the email was an audio file. Ellery pressed play. Grant's voice, clear, confident, the voice he used in meetings, the voice she once found attractive. Ellery was never the plan. Ellery was the access point. Once I get what I need from her father's company, she's out. The baby just complicated the timeline. The recording ended. The hospital room was quiet. The monitors beeped. The IV dripped. Ellery played it again, and again, 3 times. Then she set the phone down, put her hands on her belly, felt her daughter move, and something inside Ellery Whitmore, something that had been bending for months and years and a lifetime, did not break. It straightened. Dr. Marsh released her 4 days later. Blood pressure stabilized. Baby healthy. Strict orders: reduce stress, rest. Return immediately if symptoms reoccurred. Ellery went back to Sloane's apartment, sat on the couch, looked at the ultrasound photo on the refrigerator, looked at the legal files on the dining table, looked at the audio file on her phone. She listened to Grant's recording one more time, calmly, the way a doctor reads a scan, clinical, assessing, not searching for pain, searching for information. Ellery was never the plan. Ellery was the access point. She set the phone down. She had expected the recording to make her feel something new: devastation, rage, some final breaking that would either destroy her or set her free. But what she felt was clarity, clean and cold and sharp. She was never a wife. She was an investment vehicle, a means to an end, a name on a document that connected Grant Calloway to Russell Whitmore's money. Everything else, the proposal, the wedding, the painted nursery, the pregnancy tears, was performance. A long con performed with genuine skill by a man who understood that the most convincing lies are the ones wrapped in real emotion. She called Russell. "I've made a decision," she said. "I'm listening. I don't want his company destroyed. Not yet. I don't want him arrested. Not yet. I want him to sit in that courtroom and hear the truth. Every lie, every manipulation, every dollar. In front of every person he tried to impress. I want him to watch it all fall apart while he's wearing that Italian suit and can't do a single thing to stop it." Russell was quiet for a moment. "We could end this quietly. A settlement. A sealed agreement. He signs, walks away. You never hear from him again. Quietly is what he's counting on. Quietly is how men like Grant survive. They whisper and manipulate and cover their tracks, and everyone agrees to be polite about it. I'm done being polite. Then we proceed publicly. Sloane filed a motion for a new hearing, conflict of interest challenge, against the first judge. The documentation was thorough. The Calloway family connection, the golf outings, the campaign contributions. The new judge approved within 48 hours. The courtroom was smaller than Ellery expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights. The American flag in the corner needed ironing. It was not the dramatic marble cathedral she had imagined. It was an ordinary room where ordinary people came to divide their lives into before and after. Grant sat at the defendant's table. He had lost weight. His suit fit differently. His attorney, a corporate litigator from a firm that specialized in protecting men with money, shuffled papers with practiced calm. Sloane stood, and she began. Pastor Oakley's testimony came first, steady, unshakable. He described the evening in detail, the suitcases, the locked door, the pregnant woman standing on the porch in the golden hour of a Tuesday evening. He described Grant's posture, Dominique's voice from inside, Ellery getting into her car. 3 neighbors corroborated. Mrs. Anderson saw Grant carrying boxes out of the house at 2 in the afternoon. Mr. Petrie heard shouting through his kitchen window. The mail carrier, Duane, confirmed the locksmith had arrived at noon. Then the financial evidence. Howard Chen, the forensic accountant, took the stand. He presented 26 months of embezzlement in the same devastating monotone that had emptied the color from Grant's face, transaction by transaction, shell account by shell account. $614,000 redirected from a company Grant did not own to accounts he controlled. Grant's attorney objected 7 times. Each objection was overruled, then the recording. Dominique's voice on the stand was quiet but clear. She described how she found the Whitmore Project folder, how she slowly understood what Grant had done, how she obtained the recording from a voicemail Grant had left for a college friend, bragging about his strategy. The audio played in the courtroom. Grant's voice filled the room. Ellery was never the plan. Ellery was the access point. Once I get what I need from her father's company, she's out. The baby just complicated the timeline. The courtroom was silent. The judge's pen stopped moving. Grant's attorney stared at the table. Grant looked straight ahead. His face was a mask. But his hands, flat on the table in front of him, were trembling. The judge's ruling was swift. Full financial disclosure ordered from Grant. Temporary restraining order, emergency spousal and child support, and a formal referral to the district attorney's office for the embezzlement. Outside the courthouse, gray sky. The parking lot smelled like wet asphalt. Ellery walked toward the elevator, Sloane beside her. Teddy waiting at the car. Grant caught her at the elevator bank. He stepped around a column. Up close, she could see the damage, the circles under his eyes, the razor nick on his jaw, the wrinkled collar. Ellery, please, his voice cracked. I made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but you know I love you. This your father, the money, it doesn't have to change us. We can start over. She looked at him, really looked, not through the lens of the woman who had loved him, not through the fog of 4 years of carefully constructed intimacy. She looked at him the way Sloane had taught her to read a contract, clause by clause, word by word. She did not see the man she married. She saw the man he had always been. You called our daughter a complication, she said, on a recording, while planning how to use me and throw me away. The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside. Goodbye, Grant. The doors closed. She drove back to Sloane's apartment, but she took a detour, down Oak Street, past the old neighborhood, past her mother's house. Someone else lived there now. Different curtains in the windows, yellow instead of white. A child's bicycle lay on its side in the front yard. The garden that Patricia had tended every Sunday was overgrown. Ellery parked across the street, did not get out, just looked, her mother's kitchen window, where Ellery used to sit doing homework while Patricia made dinner after a 12-hour shift. The steam from the stove, the smell of chicken and rosemary, the sound of her mother humming something without melody, just sound, just presence. She sat there for 5 minutes. The baby shifted, a slow turn. Then she started the car, pulled away from the curb, did not look in the rearview mirror. She was smiling, not because the sadness had left, but because something else had arrived beside it. Something that felt like the beginning of something she did not yet have a name for. That evening, she baked her mother's banana bread. From memory, 2 overripe bananas, a cup and a quarter of flour, half a cup of brown sugar, 1 egg, a quarter cup of melted butter, a pinch of cinnamon that Patricia always called a generous pinch, which meant half a teaspoon at least. The apartment filled with the smell, sweet, warm, familiar. The smell of Sunday mornings and snow days and the kitchen of a woman who built a life out of nothing but love and stubbornness. Sloane came home from the office, smelled the bread, said nothing, took a slice. They sat on the kitchen floor because there were only 2 chairs at the table and the floor was cleaner anyway. They ate warm banana bread in silence. The best silence either of them had experienced in weeks. Russell asked to meet again. Same restaurant, same private room, same white tablecloth and invisible waiters, and bread that probably cost more per loaf than Patricia's weekly grocery budget. But this time, Ellery sat across from him differently. Her spine was straight, her hands were still. She was not performing composure. She had it. "There's something else I need to tell you," Russell said. He set his water glass down carefully. "I should have told you the first time we met. I wanted to, but I was afraid it would be too much at once." Ellery waited. "When you were born, I set up a trust. In your name. Your mother knew about it, but refused to let you access it. She said she would tell you when you turned 30, but she died before your 29th birthday. The trust was never activated. It's been accruing for 30 years. He paused. "It's worth $400 million. The words landed in the space between them like stones dropped in still water. Ellery watched the ripples without moving. $400 million, she repeated. Yes. I was an heiress. Technically, yes. While I was sleeping in my car during college winter breaks, while I was choosing between groceries and textbooks, while I was wearing the same interview suit to 8 job applications because I couldn't afford a second one. Yes. She sat with this. The trust meant she was never poor. Not really. She had been poor because her mother chose pride over comfort, because Russell respected that choice even when it cost his daughter everything, and Grant had known. The private investigator's report, the one from before their first date, had included the trust. Grant had married her, knowing she was worth $400 million. The charity gala, the courtship, the proposal, the pregnancy, all reverse-engineered from a number on a financial document. My mother let me struggle so I'd be strong, Ellery said slowly. You let me struggle because you promised her you would. Grant married me because the struggle was temporary and the money was permanent. She looked at Russell. Everyone was trying to manage my life, and none of you asked me what I wanted. Russell nodded. He did not argue, did not defend, just nodded. What do you want now? He asked. I want my daughter to grow up knowing the truth, all of it. The money, the poverty, the lies, the love. I want her to decide for herself what kind of life to build. She paused. And I want Grant Calloway to answer for what he did. Not because of revenge, because the truth matters. Because my daughter deserves a mother who didn't let a con man rewrite her story. The legal machinery moved with the precision of systems designed for exactly this kind of reckoning. Grant was officially terminated from Calloway Partners. His office was cleared, his name badge deactivated. Security watched him carry a single box to his car. Inside, a desk lamp, a coffee mug, a framed photo of himself shaking hands with someone important at a conference. No photos of Ellery, no photos of the baby. The district attorney opened a formal embezzlement investigation. Grand jury proceedings were scheduled. Grant's corporate attorney dropped him. The firm cited conflict of interest. The real reason was simpler. Grant could no longer pay their fees. His last desperate move was media. He contacted a local news station, offered his side of the story, a sympathetic narrative about an ordinary husband targeted by a vindictive, billionaire father-in-law. David versus Goliath. The little guy crushed by the machine. But Pastor Oakley had already called the same station. So had 3 neighbors. So had Dominique, who provided a copy of the recording and the Whitmore Project folder. The story that aired was not Grant's version. It was Ellery's. Not the story of a trillionaire's daughter getting revenge. Not the story of corporate warfare or financial titans settling scores. The story of a pregnant woman standing on her own porch in the golden hour of a Tuesday evening, watching her husband change the locks. A woman who had nothing, or thought she had nothing, and found her way through the anchor's closing line. Sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is simply tell the truth. Grant showed up at Sloane's apartment 3 days later, uninvited, unannounced. He looked diminished. His suit was the same Italian cut, but it hung differently now, as though the man inside had shrunk. Ellery opened the door. She did not let him in. "Ellery?" His voice was hoarse. "I know I can't undo what I did, but I'm losing everything. The job, the house, probably my freedom. I have nothing." Ellery leaned against the doorframe. She was 33 weeks pregnant. Her back hurt. Her ankles were swollen. She was tired in a way that sleep could not fix. "Now you know how it felt," she said. Standing on that lawn, 3 suitcases packed by a man who didn't bother to check what he was grabbing. 7 months pregnant, nowhere to go. "You had everything that evening, Grant. The house, the car, the secretary, the plan, but you also had me, and you threw me away." He started to cry. The tears looked real. Maybe they were. Maybe Grant Calloway was capable of genuine emotion when the emotion was about his own suffering. Maybe self-pity and remorse looked the same from the outside, but felt completely different from the inside. Ellery had learned to tell the difference. "I hope you get help," she said. She meant it. "I hope you talk to someone, a therapist, a counselor, someone who can help you understand why you did what you did. But you are not my problem anymore, and you are not my project, and you are not my lesson to learn." She closed the door. Softly, without anger, the click of the latch was quiet, final. She did not need his apology. She had spent weeks waiting for words that would make it better, words that would explain the inexplicable, words that would reach back through 4 years and untangle the truth from the performance. Those words did not exist. No combination of syllables could undo what was done. The only permission she needed was her own. Permission to stop waiting. Permission to move forward. Permission to build a life that did not include Grant Calloway in any chapter. That evening, she and Russell sat on Sloane's tiny balcony. The same balcony where she had sat, in shock weeks ago, staring at the city lights and trying to remember how to breathe. The city was the same. The lights were the same. She was different. "I'm not going to call you Dad," she said. "I know. I might never call you Dad. I know that too. But I'd like my daughter to know her grandfather. If you can promise me one thing." "Anything. Be present. Not from a parking lot. Not through shell companies. Not through trusts and private investigators and brothers I didn't know I had. Present, in the room, at the table, holding her when she cries, teaching her things, being there the way you weren't there for me." Russell's chin trembled. He looked out at the city, the lights blurred through his eyes. "I promise," he said. His voice broke on the second word. It was the first promise he had made to Ellery in 22 years. She did not know yet if he would keep it, but she knew something she had not known before. She knew she was willing to find out. 6 weeks later, Ellery moved into her own apartment. It was small, 1 bedroom, hardwood floors that creaked in the hallway, a kitchen window that faced east, which meant morning sunlight. The rent was paid with money from the trust. Her first withdrawal in 30 years. Just the security deposit and first month. Nothing more. She wanted to earn the rest. She set up a desk in the corner of the living room, laptop, monitor, drawing tablet. Her freelance business, which had hemorrhaged clients during Bev's smear campaign, was slowly rebuilding. Her first new project was a pro bono job, branding and design for a nonprofit called Fresh Inc., which helped women restart their careers after domestic crises. The irony was not lost on her. She was designing hope for women in the same situation she had been in 8 weeks ago. Teddy came over on Saturday mornings. He brought terrible coffee from a gas station 2 blocks away. Ellery pretended to like it. She did not like it. It tasted like motor oil strained through a gym sock. But Teddy drove 20 minutes to bring it and the act of pretending was a form of love she was learning to recognize. They were building something, not the sibling relationship either had imagined, not the instant bond of shared blood and childhood memories, because they had no shared childhood, something different, awkward, honest. Two adults sitting on a second-hand couch, eating gas station donuts, and trying to figure out how to be family when neither of them had a template. "You know, you could have a penthouse," Teddy said one morning, gesturing at the apartment. "I don't want a penthouse." "You could have a house, a car, staff. I want a kitchen window that faces east. I have that." He shook his head, smiled, ate another donut. The legal aftermath unfolded in stages. The divorce was finalized on a Wednesday. Ellery wore a navy dress. Sloane wore her best courtroom suit. Grant wore the look of a man who had exhausted every strategy and every excuse. Ellery took nothing from Grant. Not the house, not the car, not the retirement account he had already drained. She did not need to. She had the trust. She had her work. She had her freedom. She requested sole custody, which the court granted without contest given the evidence of financial fraud. The abandonment, the recorded statement calling the baby a complication. Grant's final statement in court was delivered in a voice Ellery barely recognized, thin, quiet, stripped of charm. "I loved her. In my own way, I loved her." The judge looked at him over the rim of her reading glasses. She was a woman in her late 50s with silver hair and the particular expression of someone who had heard every version of that sentence. "The court finds that characterization inconsistent with the evidence," she said, and moved to the next item on the docket. Bev Calloway had stopped speaking to Grant publicly. The church friends she had rallied with her group text had seen the news story. Pastor Oakley had given a sermon that Sunday about truth and accountability. He did not mention names. He did not need to. Dominique had moved to Portland. She sent Ellery one final email. "I'm starting over. I hope you are too." Ellery did not respond. But she did not delete the message. Grant was indicted on 12 counts of embezzlement and 2 counts of wire fraud. His court-appointed attorney requested a plea bargain. The district attorney was considering. Ellery did not follow the criminal case closely. That chapter of her life was closed. Not with a slam, with a quiet click, like the latch on Sloane's door the last time she spoke to Grant. The baby arrived on a Tuesday morning, early, 37 weeks. The sun was just coming up when Ellery's water broke in the kitchen. She was making oatmeal. The pot boiled over at the same time. She turned off the stove, called Sloane, grabbed her hospital bag, and walked to the car with the careful, deliberate steps of a woman who had rehearsed this moment 100 times in her mind. Sloane drove. Badly, but fast. The delivery took 14 hours. Sloane was in the room. Teddy was in the waiting room. He paced a trench in the linoleum. A nurse finally told him to sit down before he wore through to the basement. Russell was in the parking lot. Old habits. Ellery sent a nurse to get him at 4:17 in the morning, 43 minutes after the baby was born. "There's a man in the parking lot," she told the nurse. "Silver hair, probably sitting in a very unremarkable car. Tell him his granddaughter is here." Russell walked into the hospital room the way a man walks into a cathedral, slowly, reverently, afraid to breathe too loudly. The baby was in Ellery's arms, 8 pounds, 2 ounces, a full head of dark hair, eyes that were still the unfocused blue of every newborn, but would later settle into her mother's brown. Russell stood at the foot of the bed. His hands hung at his sides. He was trembling. "Would you like to hold her?" Ellery asked. He nodded, could not speak. She placed the baby in his arms. The trillionaire, the man who owned companies and buildings and portfolios worth more than the annual budgets of small nations. standing in a hospital room at 4 in the morning, trembling, holding 7 pounds and 14 ounces of everything that mattered. The baby grabbed his finger, tiny hand, iron grip. Russell made a sound that was not quite a laugh and not quite a sob. "Her name is Margaret," Ellery said, "after my mother." Russell closed his eyes, tears tracked down his weathered cheeks. He held Margaret closer. The baby yawned, settled, slept. Teddy appeared in the doorway, saw his father holding the baby, saw Ellery watching them. He took a photo on his phone. Nobody smiled. It was better than a smile. It was real. 6 months passed. Ellery sat on a bench in Riverside Park on an afternoon in early October. The leaves were turning, gold and copper and deep red. The air smelled like cut grass and approaching rain. Margaret lay on a blanket in the dappled sunlight, 6 months old, reaching for everything, grasping at shadows and leaves and the impossible distance between her fingers and the sky. Ellery was drawing, a sketch pad on her knee, charcoal pencil. She was sketching the tree above them, the way the branches split and diverged and found their own paths toward the light. She had started drawing again 3 months ago, quietly, without announcement. It was something she had given up during her marriage. Grant had called it a waste of time, a hobby for people who could not do real work. She had packed away her pencils and pads and the tin of charcoals her mother had given her for her 16th birthday. She unpacked them the week after Margaret was born, set them on the desk beside her laptop, drew the view from her kitchen window, the rooftops, the water tower, the slice of sky that turned pink each morning. It was not great art. It was not meant to be. It was the act of making something, the act of looking at the world and putting a version of it on paper, the act of existing as a person with her own eyes and her own hands and her own way of seeing. Her phone buzzed. A text from Russell. "How's my granddaughter today?" She took a photo of Margaret on the blanket. The baby was holding a dandelion, not picking it, just holding the stem with that fierce infant grip, as if the flower were the most important object in the universe. She sent the photo. Russell replied with a single word, "Beautiful." He came to dinner every Thursday now, not to Ellery's apartment, to Sloane's, because Sloane had the bigger table, and because Thursday dinners had become a thing. Teddy came. Sometimes Pastor Oakley, sometimes Dr. Marsh, who had become a friend in the way that people who share a crisis sometimes do. Russell sat at the table and passed dishes and made small talk and held Margaret on his knee while she gummed a wooden spoon. He was awkward, overly formal. He did not know how to tell stories or fill silence with easy laughter, but he was there, in the room, at the table, present. He was keeping his promise. On the bench beside Ellery, a woman sat down, young, maybe 25. She held a toddler on her hip. The child was squirming. The woman's hair was unwashed. Her eyes were red. She bounced the toddler with the automatic rhythm of someone who had not stopped moving in days. Ellery recognized the look, the tension in the jaw, the quick glances around the park, the way the woman held the child close, not just with love, but with the particular intensity of someone who is afraid of what happens if she lets go. The woman caught Ellery looking, flushed, looked away. "Tough day?" Ellery said. The woman laughed. It came out broken, exhausted, the laugh of someone who has not been asked a kind question in a long time. "You have no idea," she said. Ellery looked at her, at the tired eyes and the unwashed hair and the child clutching a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. "Actually," Ellery said, "I might." The woman looked at her, really looked. Something passed between them, not information, not advice, recognition. The silent acknowledgement between two people who have walked the same dark road and come out the other side with their hands full and their hearts bruised but beating. "I'm Ellery," she said. "Janine, that's a beautiful rabbit your daughter has." Janine smiled. A real one this time. Small, but real. Margaret made a sound on the blanket. A babble. A declaration. The particular noise a 6-month-old makes when she has discovered something extraordinary, like a dandelion, or a shadow, or the fact that her own feet exist. Ellery picked her up. The baby was warm against her chest. The dandelion was still in her fist. She held it like a torch. Somewhere across town, Grant Calloway was in a conference room with his court-appointed attorney, reviewing the terms of a plea deal that would alter the course of his next several years. Somewhere in a modest office that did not match his net worth, Russell Whitmore was looking at the photo of Margaret and the dandelion. He had already printed it. It hung on his wall beside a crayon drawing of a house that a 7-year-old Ellery had made 23 years ago. 2 pieces of paper, the beginning and the next beginning. Ellery stood, settled Margaret on her hip, gathered the blanket and the sketch pad and the charcoal tin. "Nice to meet you, Janine," she said. "You too." Ellery walked home. Not the home she had lost, not the house on Maple Drive with the changed locks, and the Italian suits and the secretary in her kitchen. Not the guest bed at Sloane's apartment, or the hospital room where her blood pressure climbed. The home she built, the one bedroom with the creaky floors and the east-facing window and the desk in the corner, where she drew the world as she saw it. The afternoon light was golden. Margaret reached for it. Her small hand opened and closed, grasping at something she could not hold. The dandelion seeds had scattered somewhere between the park and the sidewalk, gone, carried on a breeze that Margaret had made with her own small breath. Ellery did not look back. She walked forward, into the light, into the home she built, into the life that was hers. The dandelion seeds drifted, found the cracks in the sidewalk, settled in the soil, and waited to grow. If this story touched something in you, if it reminded you of your own strength or someone you love, leave a comment and tell me. Share it with a friend who needs to hear it today. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story like this. And if you are going through your own storm right now, just know you are not alone. We are here every single week with stories that see you. Closing disclaimer. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful storytelling with real emotional value and life lessons for our audience.